TV taught me how to dream. It was a life jacket. I don't think you can be an artist and not touch people.
"15 years ago, you made your pay-per-view debut as a headliner against Arturo Gatti. Are there any similarities in your eyes to where Tank's brand is now to where you were entering the Gatti fight?"
I believe in Tank. When Tank was very, very young, I told him someday he will be fighting on pay-per-view. And now we're here.
I've been doing it for so long. I started fighting when I was 8. I'm made for this. I'm here for a reason.
I'm in the best shape of my life. As we know, we have a hard fight. I think the hardest fight in my career. There's a big opportunity for me to become a pay-per-view superstar, and that's what I want.
A couple of years ago when I was saying I was going to be the next pay-per-view star, people were thinking that I was just talking. Now that it's really here, I'm on the road to be a superstar.
The biggest night in the boxing calendar for Showtime is now just one sleep away. Halloween night, San Antonio, Texas, the Alamo Dome. Gervonta Davis taking on Leo Santa Cruz for not one, but 2 titles in not one, 2 different weight classes. Today is going to be the weigh-in for that event. Hello, everyone. My name is Luke Thomas. That is Brian Campbell. We are from CBS Sports and the hosts of Morning Combat. If you want more information, you can go to youtube.com/Morning Combat. It's a combat sports show. But today, BC, we are here to watch the weigh-in for this card. By the way, it'll start 9 p.m. in the East. You can go to showtime.com right now for more information about buying the pay-per-view. I think you can actually buy it even from showtime.com. But 4 fights on that main card, none bigger, BC, than that main event.
None bigger than the pay-per-view main headliner for each, the first in their career to get to this level. And for Gervonta Davis, just 25 years old, we talked for so long, one of the future pillars of this sport. Floyd Mayweather, the reigning all-time pay-per-view king, tabbed him very early. Floyd is his promoter, mentor, takes a hands-on approach, but it's up to Gervonta Davis now. And the biggest test to date from this standpoint, Luke, not just putting your brand front and center from a pay-per-view level, but really going up against a guy who's maybe more talented, more accomplished, and maybe best equipped to do something Tank Davis has never done. Go 12 full rounds, potentially stretch him out and force him to bring out the boxing. Leo Santa Cruz, the 4-division champion, certainly the right dance partner for this big of a debut.
We're going to talk about this a whole lot in detail. We're going to do our picks after we see the weigh-in, but we have to talk about the weigh-in because I think it's going to be relatively easy. It's never easy, but relatively easy for Leo Santa Cruz. But we know Tank Davis, as talented as he is, he has had some issues before. Now, he did tell the world yesterday at the press conference that he had a 15-week camp, BC. Still, can you tell the audience where some of the hiccups have been for Tank Davis on the scales and what you're expecting to see today?
Tank Davis is a young champion who came into a lot of success and money early. I think we're starting to really see, though, the maturation process, the change. The proof, as Floyd Mayweather would say, will be in the pudding when he steps on the scale. But he just recently moved up to 135 pounds, won a secondary WBA title by stopping Yuriorkis Gamboa. But for this fight, he's moving back down in weight, 130 pounds. Leo Santa Cruz won titles in 4 different weight divisions, 130 being the top of that. So you like the unique element of 2 titles, 2 divisions on the line at the same time, something we haven't seen, oh, by the way, since the Floyd Mayweather-Marcos Maidana pay-per-view rematch in 2014. But if Tank Davis doesn't make weight, it's certainly a big hiccup. We've seen him lose his title on the scales before at 130 pounds in the past. That's a big thing. It's also going to be how he looks. Right. Because if he comes in and you're telling us it's full speed ahead, this will be the best Tank Davis you've ever seen, then you certainly love his chances. It's probably why he's been installed as the betting favorite. But he's got to prove to us that the commitment is on that same level. And there may be no better of a mentor, Luke, in your ear than somebody like Floyd Mayweather. Health is your wealth, the guy who lives it in between fights.
Yeah, never took a whole lot of damage in his career, had some tough fights along the way. A teetotaler, famously did not drink, that kind of a thing. And so it'll be good to have someone like that in the corner. For me, I think you bring up the excellent point here about the weigh-in. Let's say he can make it, right? Like there's no loss of a title on the scales. Everything goes forward as normal in that sense, though. You still need to be, as an insurance policy, able to fight well in that final third of a contest. If it goes in the full 12 rounds, you can't just rely on the knockout power, even though it has been a formidable trait for him. I am very curious to see, because I think he will make it. I'm not so much worried about getting to the finish line there. But did you crawl across the finish line? Did you have your hands up triumphantly? That's sort of what I'm looking for here. Has he had, in your mind, what is his best performance at 130? Does something stand out to you in that 130 campaign?
I mean, when he fought that version of Jose Pedraza, who came up and really was looking to put it on him, and Tank got him out of there. And look, we saw him stretch to levels against Gamboa in the fight that went 12 rounds. Although
neither guy like Santa Cruz
go to
right?
the finish. But, you know, Davis said it himself the best. He respects the effort Gamboa put in, but he thought he was surviving, looking to hang around until Tank ultimately stopped him. What we have not seen, Luke, is for all the talk about Tank Davis being this big puncher, and he is. He's got the second highest knockout percentage in all of boxing for ranked fighters. He's only gone the distance once. That was a 6-round fight 6 years ago, Luke. We have not seen him in the second half of a fight in the championship rounds with somebody who can push him on this level. That's why you love this fight. That's why Leo Santa Cruz is that right opponent at that right time, because nobody is more equipped at filling up the stat sheet with punches and bunches and really pushing you into those late rounds. We've seen Leo in great rivalries with Abner Maris, with Carl Frampton. Those were at featherweight, though. What's it going to look like when he steps up and faces Gervonta's power? I think just as much as we want to check Davis's gas tank late, do we want to check Leo's chin early? You know Gervonta does.
Yeah, what about that in terms of the size for him? Because he has a little bit of room to play with relative to what he has normally boxed at, right? He's going up to 130 here. That's a bit hard of a cut to get down for Davis. It's going to be much easier to make for Leo. But yet, at the same time, you wouldn't want to pack on a whole lot of non-functional size, right? I mean, the key for him is going to be what? Volume. It's going to be output. I mean, having excess weight, even if it's for extra power, I don't know that will really benefit him a whole lot in the end.
Yeah, I want to see how big Leo gets coming in. Here's what he has as an advantage. You understand this. Leo was always a tall champion. The only fighter to win titles at 118, 122, 126, and 130. And oh, by the way, looking to move into that select group of people who have won titles in 5 divisions, but he's tall. He's long. He's going to have those advantages against Tank Davis. He's going to have maybe the stamina, the boxing ability. We've seen Leo be able to switch it on and be the aggressor, be the counter boxer and all that. But, Luke, you got to be able to weather a storm. And I like hearing from Team Santa Cruz and saying, we know we have to fight smart. We know we have to fight a perfect game to some degree. But you know who Leo is at the end of the day? A Mexican-American warrior. His dad, his brother, they're going to be in the corner saying, box, box, box. How easily will it be to lure him into something maybe that suits Gervonta Davis more, showing off that big power?
Yeah, there's a couple ways that the first half of that fight could go, right? Both have sort of pegged the early start to that as being very, very influential in maybe the fight ending there, but certainly how the second half could look. And so if you're a Santa Cruz and in the first half you've been a little bit more careful but still high on volume and that's working, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But what if it is broke? What if Gervonta Davis is sticking a jab in your face? What if he's able to land big shots and then get out of the way and you've been keeping your volume a little bit low and maybe being a little bit more mindful of range? Honestly, BC, I don't think it's all that crazy to think if a more concerted approach doesn't work early, you just go to the well with what you know a little bit late, don't you?
And you want to find out what people are made of. And again, it's Gervonta's blessing could be a curse in that he's blown people away so early in so many fights. And as soon as he touches them, you see the fight-changing power. It's a big reason why at 25 he's been able to fill out arenas in different areas of our country. He's been able to produce big cable ratings. He's going to get his first pay-per-view close-up 3 years earlier than his mentor Floyd Mayweather did against Arturo Gatti some 15 years ago. But for all the talk about commercialism, and that's what you do when you put your brand at the pay-per-view level, Luke, all these two fighters want to talk about is the potential critical acclaim at stake from a pound-for-pound sense. Leo's been around the top 10 for years. Tank wants to crash that top 10. Do you believe the winner of this fight could see themselves across the board being a universal top 10 pound-for-pound fighter?
I think the winner here, let's say it's not controversial, doesn't have to be a stoppage necessarily, but whoever gets their hand raised, you say, okay, that person clearly won this, whether that's through decision or whether that's through stoppage one way or the other. I think that person's going to get 2 things out of this. One, a series of fights presented to them after this that are just going to be mouthwatering. Remember, this is Davis's debut on pay-per-view. It's Santa Cruz's debut on pay-per-view as well. Both of them are kind of leveling up in some ways.
From a headlining role.
From a headlining role, yes, of course, I should clarify that. They're the ones at the top of the bill in this case, and they're both on pay-per-view. So that's really interesting to see what could happen there. The second part is I absolutely agree. If you go in there and for the reasons we've identified about why it's a tough fight for Davis or why it's a tough fight for Santa Cruz, and you can really demonstrate, I think if you're Davis to beat him, you're going to have to show all the things you've shown before, but a little bit more sophistication, a little bit more patience, but also a little bit more output at the same time, a more mature performance. And I think if you're Santa Cruz, you have to be able to show, listen, I can step up at 130 against the biggest puncher, arguably, that you can find in this weight class, and I can withstand him and still keep my style. That means you can port that over to all kinds of different fights. So to me, it's critical, it's promotional, it's really the best of both worlds.
It's Gervonta getting the test that he needs, but it's also Leo exercising a bit of that chip on his shoulder. He went after Gervonta Davis because he felt like none of the other big names were going out of their way to try to lure him in. And again, here's a guy in Leo Santa Cruz who's going to end up in the Hall of Fame one day. He's won titles in 4 divisions. He's been so consistent across the board. How about the dare to be great nature of just trying to say, hey, I'm going to move up and maybe add one more belt to the mix because the lightweight title will be at stake with Gervonta bringing it here, but I'm going to do it against a guy who's been tabbed as the Mike Tyson of the small weight classes. That's the kind of spirit and passion we look for in our heroes in the boxing game, and I don't want to underscore the challenge Leo Santa Cruz is taking on. And Luke, the personal element of the fact that his dad, Jose, who's battled cancer, who's battled COVID, will be in his corner on Saturday.
Yeah, a miraculous turnaround for him, which, by the way, is great to see, and I'm sure is going to lift the spirits, certainly, of Leo Santa Cruz. Now, we were looking at the odds all week for this fight, BC. So this is where they stand today. I'm not going to say exactly where it's from, but give or take, because it's a little bit all over the place, but give or take, you've got Davis around -7 or 800. You've got Santa Cruz basically around a +500. I got to tell you, BC, I've been saying it all week. They haven't moved a whole lot since that time. I do not agree with these odds. I agree with the sense that Davis deserves to be favored for all the things we already know about him. And again, I want to keep going back to it. 15-week camp in Las Vegas, not Charm City. That's only going to do good for him. I really believe that. But Santa Cruz is not some chump. Santa Cruz might be the smaller guy, and we'll see how he holds up with the power. And listen, would it really shock you if Davis knocked him out inside 2? He's got the power to do that to just about anybody. I just don't think that's the likeliest of outcomes.
I mean, look, betting odds are what they are. They sort of try to set a line for people's thinking in terms of what you're going to go forward.
And to induce bets.
And to induce bets, you never know until you see in the ring. Look, Davis has the type of fight-altering power that I don't care what weight class he's in or who you put him in there against, you can make a case for the puncher's chance. You love that power against a guy moving up in weight, but let's not forget, again, Santa Cruz taller and longer. And Luke, in his great 2-fight rivalry with Carl Frampton a couple years back, which produced 2 Fight of the Year contenders, what we saw in that rematch, which allowed Leo Santa Cruz to avenge and win back his title, was an adjustment. And if you are going to win these pay-per-view fights at the highest level in your career-defining opportunities, you need a plan B, C, and D. You need to know how to execute them. That was a fight in which he curtailed Frampton's pressure by playing the long game, using his jab, looking to be smarter and quicker. If he's able to implement that while able to durably survive against Davis, like we said, it's a whole different fight in the second half if he gets there. He is a much bigger live dog than they're giving him credit. We need to see certain parts tested in Gervonta that, again, his power has not allowed us to see.
And I'll say this one more time. Power is the thing that captures the fans and the media's imagination, and with good reason. Never look past a guy who weaponizes cardio. Never. That is one of the most dangerous fighters you'll ever come around. That's exactly what Leo Santa Cruz does. Now, there are 3 other fights on this card, BC. Our co-main event, Mario Barrios taking on Ryan Cowboy Carl. It's sort of an all-Texas affair here. Barrios had a tough fight in his last contest. Got through with his own power, by the way, and his own interesting shot selection. Still, this is something of a... This is a fight where, let's just say it, Barrios is pretty heavily favored to win here.
He is, and he's coming in there in his hometown, in his backyard of San Antonio. He wants to be in that discussion with a title he just captured at super lightweight as one of the most exciting young fighters rising, but certainly in that 140-pound division. Another guy who fits that bill, by the way, will be on this undercard in Rougarou, Regis Prograis. We'll get to in a second. But Barrios really has a chance here to make good on that promise that we've seen. He did go in there against Akhmedov in a very tough fight and capture that vacant title. but he wants to now have the backdrop of his hometown. He's got Virgil Hunter, the veteran, in his corner, trying to get him to jab a little bit more, then mix it up, which is what he likes. He's going to have a hungry guy, and Cowboy Ryan Carl coming at him, Luke, who said injury-free for the first time in 2 years, hands not bothering him. That could end up mattering. We've seen a lot of people bounce back once the lingering nature exits. You're going to see fireworks. They come to steal the show. Barrios said that. I'm going to steal the show from Tank and Santa Cruz.
Yeah, it's a tall order. Also, another fight on this card. I believe it's an IBF title eliminator. Isaac Cruz taking on Diego Magdaleno. Magdaleno has been in there against some big names, sometimes falling short against those big names. Cruz, you look at the tape on this guy, which I went and spent some time doing this week. Well, you want to talk about a march you down type of in-your-face striker. That's exactly what he is.
Absolutely. 22 years old. We're going to find out if he can tangle with the veteran Magdaleno, but I think it's time to go to our friends over at the Alamo Dome.
Certainly does. Regis Program, Juan Herreras. We'll talk about that later, but let's now go to San Antonio, Texas, and let's have it go down. It's Jimmy Lennon Jr., folks.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you and welcome as PBC Premier Boxing Champions presents the official weigh-in for a big night of action coming away, taking place right here in the beautiful city of San Antonio, Texas tomorrow night. And it's all brought to you by Mayweather Promotions, TGB Promotions, GTD Promotions, Santa Cruz Boxing Club, and Showtime. Sponsored by Proper Number 12 Irish Whiskey, the finest, the tastiest, the smoothest liquid gold in the world, and O'Reilly Auto Parts. Order your parts online at O'ReillyAuto.com and get free curbside pickup. All right, fans, here we go. We're going to begin with our opening attraction for tomorrow night's pay-per-view attraction taking place at the Alamo Dome. It's 12 rounds of boxing for a world title eliminator. And now we welcome our fighters to the stage. First, we have the former world title challenger from Las Vegas, Nevada, ranked the IBF number 9 contender. Please welcome Diego Tu Fuego Magdaleno. And now his opponent joining us to the stage, joining us from Mexico City, La Ciudad de Mexico. Ranked the IBF number 6 contender, here is Isaac Pitbull Cruz. And now our fighters are ready to step onto the scale. The weight limit on this fight is 135 pounds even. It is for the IBF World Title Lightweight Eliminator. First to the scale with a record of 32 wins, 3 losses, 13 of his wins coming by way of knockout. He's the veteran standout world contender, Diego Tu Fuego Magdaleno. 134 3/4 pounds, 134 3/4 pounds for Diego Magdaleno. Now up to the scale, his opponent, 19-1-1 with 14 knockouts, the rising lightweight contender, Isaac Pitbull Cruz. 132 pounds even, already 132 pounds. And there they are, ladies and gentlemen, 12 rounds of boxing. For the IBF Lightweight World Title Eliminator, Isaac Pitbull Cruz, Diego Tu Fuego Magdaleno.
Yeah, look at that, 132 for, I guess it's Isaac. Forgive my lack of pronunciation there properly. Isaac Cruz, 132. He could easily be down a weight class. Against Magdaleno, it's going to be interesting. Plus, he's got a walk-you-down style.
Look, this is a guy with boxing in his blood, Cruz. Just 22 years old from Mexico, third-generation pro fighter. His grandfather defeated Pepino Cuevas. That's how much it runs through his body. He said, I may not have the name of Magdaleno coming in, but of everyone on this card, I'm going to make sure you know my name after this fight. He fights small. He is small of stature, but he gets inside on you, Luke. Could be interesting if he can pressure the veteran Magdaleno, who's been to that title level before on 3 occasions.
As you can see, they're doing the COVID protocol between all of the fighters weighing in. But I think we're going back to Jimmy Luna Jr. right here.
Well, fans, Premier Boxing Champions continues with our official weigh-in with a special attraction joining us tonight, this afternoon, and tomorrow night of the second bout of the evening, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Order your parts online at O'ReillyAuto.com and get free curbside pickup. Now we bring our fighters to the stage at this time. First, the undefeated fighter from Las Vegas, Nevada. Here is the crafty and speedy Juan Herreras. And now we invite his opponent up to the stage at this time, a New Orleans native now fighting out of Katy, Texas. He's the hard-hitting former WBA super lightweight champion of the world, Regis Rougarou Prograis. And our fighters are ready to step onto the scale at this time. Weight limit is 140 pounds in this super lightweight special attraction, scheduled for 10 rounds of boxing. First, with a record of 16 wins, no losses and 1 draw, he has 10 of his wins coming by way of knockout. Here's the undefeated and skilled fighter from Las Vegas, Juan Herreras. £139.5 pounds, 139.5 for Juan Herreras. And his opponent with a fine record of 24 wins, only 1 defeat with 20 big wins coming by way of knockout. Here's the current acclaimed top contender and former world champion Regis Rougarou Prograis. 141.6 pounds. He steps on the scale and tips it at 141.6. We're going to call that 141.5 pounds. And there they are, ladies and gentlemen. It's a 10-round special attraction, super lightweight division. Former world champion versus undefeated fighter, Regis Rougarou Prograis, Juan Herreras.
Hey, Rich. We're just gonna cruise. What'd you say? We're just gonna cruise.
So there you have it. Regis Prograis coming in at 141.6. Juan Herreras 139.5. I believe, BC, you are allowed the 1-point allowance for a non-title fight. However, that would still put Prograis about half a pound over. Still, my understanding is he's going to have at least 2 hours to make the weight. Half a pound seems like this fight should go forward, no problem.
Without question, it's certainly a bruise to the ego, a bruise to the professionalism in terms of how hard of a camp this may have been for Prograis. It's going to be most interesting, though, Luke, to see how this affects the fight, given this standpoint. Juan Herreras is the slick boxer of the pair. He's the matador against the bull, so to speak, and what Prograis tries to do is pressure you and walk you down. Will this cut affect him later in the fight? We'll have to see.
Yeah, we certainly will. So that'll be interesting to see also how much it drains him to get down. I think he'll do it, no problem, but certainly that's never an ideal circumstance whenever you're trying to make weight. And again, Juan Herreras does look pretty good, look ready to go, no doubt about it. All right, let's go back to the classy Jimmy Lennon Jr.
Well, fans, here we go. Premier Boxing Champions presents the official weigh-in for the first of our world title attractions taking place tomorrow night at the Alamo Dome. Sponsored by Proper Number 12 Irish Whiskey, the finest, the tastiest, the smoothest liquid gold in the world. This bout is the co-main event of the evening, the WBA Super Lightweight World Championship. We welcome our fighters to the stage at this time. First, here's the challenger, a Texas native, ranked the WBA number 9 world contender, introducing Cowboy Ryan Carl. And his opponent is the defending world champion. He'll be making the first defense of his title, fighting out of and representing his home of San Antonio, Texas. Here is the defending and undefeated WBA Super Lightweight Champion of the world, Mario El Azteca Barrios. All right, fans, here we go. Let's bring our fighters to the scale. Weight limit on this fight is 140 pounds. It is for the WBA Super Lightweight Championship of the World, scheduled for 12 rounds of boxing. First, we invite with a record of 18-2 with 12 knockouts. He is the challenger, making his first attempt at a world title, Cowboy Ryan Carl. Ryan Carl weighs in right at the limit of 140 pounds, 140 pounds. And his opponent has a record of 25 wins, no losses, with 16 knockouts. He is the defending, reigning, and undefeated WBA Super Lightweight Champion of the World, Mario El Azteca Barrios. 139.5 pounds for the champion, 139.5 for Mario El Azteca Barrios. And there they are, ladies and gentlemen. The World Championship is at stake. It's for the WBA Super Lightweight Championship of the World. Mario El Azteca Barrios versus Cowboy Ryan Carl.
Barrios there coming in 139.5 BC, Cowboy Ryan Carl 140. They both look to be about similar size. They look good on the scales.
Oh, this fight is going to be fun. Make no mistake about it. If you know anything, well, if you know anything about somebody that calls himself Cowboy and wears the hat in combat sports, it typically means you empty the tank and bring it. This has been Carl's style. He's been very cavalier. He's been a fun TV fighter, so to speak. But now you see a guy getting serious about title contention. Just 2 defeats. He avenged one of them, Luke. And these guys actually know each other. Barrios from San Antonio, Carl from a small town between Austin and Houston, and they knew each other in the amateurs, just never were at the same weight class at the same time, never thought they'd cross paths. Will be interesting to see how that background affects this all-Texas showdown.
And as you heard them mention, there actually are, well, there's 2 titles in the main event and another title in this particular fight, so 2 title fights altogether, but we'll see. All right, so let's go back to the classy Jimmy Lennon Jr.
Well, fans, here we go. We welcome you to the official weigh-in for this tremendous night of boxing as Premier Boxing Champions presents the highly anticipated champion versus champion double world championship featured attraction brought to you by Mayweather Promotions, TGB Promotions, GTD Promotions, Santa Cruz Boxing Club, and Showtime. Sponsored by Proper Number 12 Irish Whiskey, the finest, the tastiest, the smoothest liquid gold in the world, and O'Reilly Auto Parts. Order your parts online at O'ReillyAuto.com and get free curbside pickup. Well, fans, this highly anticipated main event, 12 rounds of boxing double world championship attraction. We're ready to bring our fighters to the stage at this time. First, the distinguished world champion from Los Angeles, representing his heritage of Huetamo, Michoacan, Mexico. He'll be making his 18th appearance in a world title fight. Here is the reigning WBA super featherweight champion of the world, Leo El Terremoto Santa Cruz. And now his opponent, ladies and gentlemen, the young star of boxing from Baltimore, Maryland. He is the three-time two-division world champion, the current WBA lightweight champion of the world, Gervonta Tank Davis. And we're ready to bring our fighters to the scale for this double world championship, WBA super featherweight and WBA lightweight championship of the world. Scheduled 12 rounds of boxing. The weight limit on this fight is a very strict 130 pounds. First, with a record of 37 wins, 1 loss and 1 draw, he has 19 of his wins coming by way of knockout. He's the renowned 4-division world champion, the current reigning and defending WBA super featherweight champion of the world, Leo El Terremoto Santa Cruz. Leo Santa Cruz weighs in at 129.5 pounds, 129.5 pounds. And now, with a sensational record of 23 wins, no losses, 22 wins coming by way of knockout, he is the popular and acclaimed 3-time two-division world champion, the reigning, defending, and undefeated WBA lightweight champion of the world, Gervonta Tank Davis. 129.75 pounds, 129.75 pounds for the lightweight world champion. We have a fight. Gervonta Tank Davis versus Leo El Terremoto Santa Cruz for the double world championship. There they are, ladies and gentlemen. A tremendous action. Champion versus champion. Two of the best in the world today for the WBA Super Featherweight and WBA Lightweight Championship of the World. Gervonta Tank Davis, Leo El Terremoto Santa Cruz.
So there you have it. You can see currently there on your feed, Gervonta Davis posing. Great news, folks. He made it. 129.75. Leo Santa Cruz, 129.5. I got to say, BC, I don't know exactly how he made the weight, but you and I have been to a gazillion weigh-ins. I'll say this. I've seen him a lot worse than that. He did it.
Just the same, though, you could feel almost the drama and the tension in the air, knowing that for Tank's history, for how effective he can be in this fight, you certainly wanted him to come on that scale and make weight, but look good doing so. And I think we've seen a focused Gervonta Davis. He's talked all camp that there wouldn't be an issue. He said, in third person, Gervonta Davis will not have any trouble making weight. Turns out he didn't. I did think Leo Santa Cruz, which will just be, by the way, his second fight at 130 pounds, looked very filled out, looked very ready to go. We can remove, seemingly, the asterisk of the potential, what will the weight effect have on this fight, and really now get into skill versus skill. What can this fight look like? If you're telling me we're getting the very best of Gervonta Davis, you know he's going to be dangerous, Luke. From the opening bell in round one to however long this fight goes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's got a long future at 130 pounds. Probably not, but our suspicion was correct that the 15 weeks was definitely going to put him in a place where he needed to be to get through this hurdle that he just did today. And so also, if you're just joining us, Gervonta made the weight, but he had to get the towel. He had to get the old promotional thing. But hey, you know what? Listen. Again, I've seen a million of these weigh-ins. Sometimes they pull the towel out and you're like, oh, he's going to botch it. And then sometimes they get it and it's no problem.
You hear from fighters so many times. The fight itself can be the dessert.
Part,
it could be the easy part. The real fight is the fight before the fight. And this is when Gervonta passed. So now we move on to this historic bout in a sense where you do have two weight classes, titles in both, at stake in the same fight. Contested at 130 pounds. Both fighters made it. But Gervonta Davis's WBA secondary lightweight title will be on the line, along with that super featherweight crown that Leo Santa Cruz just recently won in his last bout. This is something you don't see often. Floyd Mayweather, Maidana in 2014, Sugar Ray Leonard, Donnie Lalonde back in the 80s, a handful of times before that. Do you think there's more at stake in this one, Luke? All things considered, critically or commercially for both fighters?
Ooh, I'll say this. I feel like we live in I've not thought about that question, but here's my immediate reaction. Certainly, if you're Tank Davis and Showtime, as you've seen, has given him the all-access treatment, and the videos, we checked them out today. I mean, they're in the millions of views right now, so it appears to have paid off as a bet, right? They went all in on him, and so far it's really working really well. We know Floyd is in his corner. It's not like you can do all these things and then have a bad showing at the box office and all is forgiven. But I will say this. We also live in an age in sports where NBA ratings down, NFL ratings to an extent down, baseball ratings down. Combat sports has done pretty well through all of that. Of course, there are some ups and downs there too. I will say if it is disastrous in some way, yeah, of course, they'll come back to haunt him. I don't think it's going to be that way. I actually think it's going to do really well. But I do feel like if it doesn't hold up to the loftiest of expectations, he'll be forgiven, given that they're going to have 11,000 people in an arena that can have many multiples of that. Where are you on this equation?
For as much as you want to talk about the brand, again, both guys are talking more about the critical acclaim that they felt they haven't gotten, that maybe they should have, that they've been on the outside looking in the larger pound-for-pound discussion, just haven't kicked that door in. This fight gives them that opportunity. For as great as Tank Davis has looked, and he's looked fantastic, he really hasn't fought anybody with the accomplishments, the reputation, the combined talent of Leo Santa Cruz. Even though in theory he's the smaller man moving up, he'll be the taller man, he'll be the longer man, he'll be the more experienced man at this very title level. So we talked before they stepped on the scales about what Leo's really up against, a huge power puncher in front of him. The whole idea that the longer Leo stays around, his chances increase. So if you're his father, Jose, his brother, Antonio in the corner, and shout out to Leo, by the way, for the respect of his beloved father and trainer with the tattoo on his left arm there. Are you looking to win the first half of the fight? Are you looking to survive the first half of the fight, read the temperature of the room? How do you instruct him on what to do as this fight gets going?
I think at first, stay away from the big power. I think when you start getting into the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th round, if it goes that long, you've done a ton of body work. You got to drain that guy. Listen, Tank Davis, when he's at his freshest and he's at his most ready, man, that's a very formidable challenge for anyone at 130 or 135 pounds. But if you can drain the guy, and by the way, listen to the words that I'm saying, if you can drain the guy. But, we know a guy like Leo Santa Cruz does really good body work. Again, not each one being the most aggressive OMG Incredible Hulk punch, but the accumulation of the body work. If you can slow that guy down and labor the breathing, and then you can bring your style to life and really step on the gas. I think no matter what, BC, if we get to the full 12 rounds, the amount of output that Santa Cruz has, win or lose, will be significantly greater in rounds 7 to 12 than in rounds 1 to 6.
Now, Santa Cruz historically has been very durable, just down one time as a pro. That came in 2009, so a much earlier incarnation of his career. Yes, this will be the biggest puncher that he's facing. Team Santa Cruz to prepare. They brought in welterweights to spar with. They've been working the neck muscles, all the things to keep him up here. What I love about how fresh and honest yet brave Leo has been in the buildup is just, look, I don't know if I can handle his best punches. I know I have to play it safe. I'm going to find out as much as you guys are going to find out there in those first few rounds. It's certainly going to be interesting as Gervonta stalks him. If Leo can gain the respect that you do need to gain when you're in there with a bully, right? It's not just survival. Leo will have to do something. Flurries, punches and bunches, body punches, in order to show Gervonta that you could be in here for the long haul. And that's going to be interesting.
Let me ask you, BC, if you look at the career of Santa Cruz and then you look at the career of Davis, is there anyone in either person's resume that you can say is a close proximate to who they're fighting tomorrow? So has Davis fought anyone who's kind of like Santa Cruz, and vice versa? Has Santa Cruz done the same for Davis? Because a big part of me feels like in this is a lot of considerations about them both leveling up on pay-per-view and pound for pound. Another factor here is I don't know to what extent they've faced similar kinds of challenges.
Not exactly the same, right? And it's the most dangerous challenge for Leo. It's certainly the most accomplished opponent, like we mentioned, Leo Santa Cruz, a guy who can really stretch him. It's certainly the ultimate challenge for both, which is what you want to see when two guys get together on the pay-per-view level. It's not just about putting their brand together and seeing how many buys we can get. It's about finding out exactly who they are. And as we talked about, knocking on the door of that pound for pound. It also gives, with the unique setup of this fight, meaning you can come out of here with titles at 30 and 135, a lot more options in your future. And both guys had said leaning in, I'm not going to hold myself to one division at this point. And by the way, Leo Santa Cruz still holds the title at 126 pounds. So if he wins, he has the opportunity, the ability to fight across 3 divisions if he wants to. But when we talk about some of the younger fighters in the game right now, there's a lot of big-time names and talent around these divisions. So should Gervonta Davis win on Saturday, he'd have to be in the power position in terms of the most marketable of that explosive young group of names and maybe be the one calling the shots in terms of where he's going.
We are two old idiots. We have been around a long time, enough to know you can begin to see divisions turn over when the youth movement comes through and begins to displace sort of the more mainstays. And it doesn't happen all at once, but when it begins to happen, it's unmistakable. I feel like we're in the middle of one of those, especially at lightweight. Now, this bout is being contested at 130, although obviously there are some 135 considerations along the way, and a belt, for example. But my point is this, BC. How much are you a believer in this youth movement coming through at 130, at 135 in boxing? And is Davis, in your mind, a clear, unequivocal part of that takeover?
Oh, he's a monster part of that takeover. Nobody has been able to draw this young group of the Ryan Garcias, the Devin Haney's, the Teofimo Lopez's, Shakur Stevenson. There's a lot of Devin Haney, a lot of names to love around this. Nobody's been able to be the box office star to this point that Tank Davis has been. And now, look, a big part of that maybe is being anointed early by Floyd Mayweather, having the legend put his arm around you, promote you. Also the way Gervonta carries himself in the ring, knocking people out, which can be the most exciting, easiest way to build a big crowd. And just showing you that there is so much long-term potential as a boxer, as a puncher, as an attraction. In that regard, I think he's got a head start on all of them. I think he's the biggest puncher of that entire group. What we don't know is if he's the best fighter. And that's interlocking into this larger theme that, it's somewhat of a referendum to find out where Tank Davis, the brand, is. But also Tank Davis, the thinker, the boxer, the adapter. Leo is that type of opponent who's going to maybe make him have to use more tools in his box than either he knows is there or he's had to show.
Let me ask you this. So let's say Tank Davis goes out there tomorrow, Halloween night, San Antonio, Texas, and does the best version of Tank Davis. Fight goes 5-6 rounds, and then he just viciously KOs him. You're like, wow, man, he did that the smart way. It took his time, but he got it done in the Tank Davis style no matter what. Does he, at that point, in your mind, become the biggest draw under 150 pounds?
I mean, under 150 is a tough.
I'm using an arbitrary line there.
It's a tough arbitrary line because we know how sexy the welterweight division is. We know how many big names across multiple promotions right now. It's the pay-per-view division. Spence, Crawford,
Is he bigger than them or no?
Porter and Garcia. I don't see as many celebrities at their fights as I do at Tank Davis. There's a special sort of thing Steven Espinoza, the president of Showtime Sports, tried to say it when we talked to him in Morning Combat. He's like, I don't know how you put your finger on it. I don't know how to describe it, but there's a certain energy and spirit with Tank and the product that he puts forward to boxing fans that, not only attracts the younger and casual audience, but attracts the celebrities. People want to be near it. There's a sort of unspoken it factor to him that, again, Floyd Mayweather really had to climb the critical ladder first in his career, became the pound-for-pound king in his early 20s, according to some experts, and it took him a while to develop that persona, that ability to bring fans in there. Floyd also a much more defensive-minded fighter, especially in his welterweight run, where Tank has different advantages that Floyd doesn't entering his first pay-per-view fight right here. We want to learn more about his boxing ability, but he can bring people because of the knockouts. He's got a celebrity connection already. He's the real deal from the star factor. Got to earn it in the ring, and that's why Leo is dare to be great, right place, right moment, right time. Can he be the right guy, though, to disarm and expose Tank? We can only find that out Halloween night.
So let's talk about that for just a second. We've been talking about what happens if Davis wins and what it does and means for the next generation of boxing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, Santa Cruz is 32, so he's not old, but certainly he's not in that youth movement.
He's looking to add the big names, round out his Hall of Fame career at the moment.
Right, so again, let's say it does the opposite. Let's say it's vintage Santa Cruz performance, one of the best ones of his career, and he just shocks the world in that particular way. Because remember, the odds have him as a fairly significant underdog. What is the story about his career at that point? Because again, he is stepping up to pay-per-view as a headliner for the first time. It feels like there's a lot of narratives around Tank Davis, as there should be. But what are some of the narratives about the bigger picture here if Santa Cruz gets the W?
Look, it can be easy at times, given how much we know Leo Santa Cruz. He's been on TV for a long time. He's been winning titles in 4 weight classes, as we said. You can't overlook him, though. He is among fighters who are from the full gamut of crazy stories, bombastic personalities. He is the most polite, down-to-earth, family-oriented, hard worker. One thing his dad says in every interview, Jose, the reason why my son is at this level, because nobody works harder than him. Here's a guy who is blue-collar, didn't have big knockout power even at featherweight when he was rising up in his second division, but outworks you inside the ring. Really emphasizes that the Mexican boxing spirit. He'll take one to give you two, take two to give you one, however the equation goes. And when you really look at that, there is a lightweight title at stake in this one. There are a select group of stars that have won 5 world championships in 5 divisions. You're talking about the Oscars and the Floyds, people on that level. Leo Santa Cruz, we don't maybe talk enough about the resume, the legendary status that he's building. And when you look at the great Mexican fighters, the great Mexican-American fighters, this would be a win that I think would really allow him to climb that ladder higher and remind people exactly who we saw. A guy who could do it over more. That's what a pound-for-pound fighter is in the truest sense, right? Somebody who, no matter what weight class you put him in there, no matter the style of opposition, he can figure out a way to get it done. I think this would be the biggest and most impressive victory in Leo Santa Cruz's career, not just because it's his first pay-per-view headlining role, but because of the danger at stake. You can't count him out. This would be the ultimate crown on top of a great career fit for a king.
And not just doing it across multiple weight classes, but across time, right? At 32, you should still, if you want to be one of those kinds of people, I'm not knocking people who didn't do it, but if you want to be in that elite group, you still have to be able to win at that level, at that age range. That's still kind of a championship age range. So we'll see if he can do it on a Saturday night. All right, time for picks on the main event. Then we'll talk about the rest of this main card here, BC. What do you have? Gervonta Davis, Leo Santa Cruz.
I certainly believe that Leo can stretch him, that Leo can give himself a chance to use the volume, the sparks, the distance, and maybe push this fight the distance and win a decision. It's in play here. But when you have an out punch, like Gervonta Davis has with both hands, but specifically that left hand, Luke, if you tell me he's going to come in flat Saturday night, he could still win by knockout. If you're telling me he's going to come in the most focused we've ever seen, and he looked great on the scale, by the way, he could get you that knockout. I do believe that if this guy can box and set up his punches against a fellow elite as good as he can walk you down and knock you out, he is all that Floyd says and then some. I think he gets a stoppage mid-fight. Leo tries his best to leave his imprint on the fight, but as soon as those punches accumulate, I'm not sure we found somebody on this level who can take those shots. Some say Gamboa looked to survive, and he almost lasted the distance. If you come at Tank Davis, you get into that kitchen, the heat will get you. The flames will get on you. You'll get a little on you. And I think the more that he lands, I could see Leo going out in the 5th round.
Okay, I would go with Davis as well. For me, though, I'm going to say it's a little bit closer. If Gervonta had missed weight, I'd be very concerned. Right? In 15 weeks, you still couldn't get to a point where you were making contracted weight that you knew about. You've been training all that time. That would be a little bit, the lack of professionalism, had that happened, I think would be alarming. But we did not get there. Now, he skin of his teeth, but he got it done, and he got it done weighing in the first time. I give him credit for it. I think that's important. And you're not supposed to give fighters credit for making the way they're contracted to, but when you know how much of a sacrifice it is for him to get down there and how hard it probably has to be, I honor that commitment to do the things he said he would do, especially when he's had some issues in the past. For me, I'm going to go with Davis, but I'm going to say this. Davis cannot beat Santa Cruz fighting with the same general, not specific tactical approach, but the general strategic lackadaisical approach he brought into the Gamboa fight. And the Nunes fight was just kind of weird because it was so short. I think he's going to have to be, you cannot play Leo Santa Cruz's game with volume, but you can't let him get away with it either. You have to match that intensity just enough where you stay within the confines of your game. And I think I need to see him work behind the jab a little bit more, not let Santa Cruz get into a rhythm, circle, not be a sitting target for that body work, and getting his back off the ropes. To the extent that he does that, it's his fight to lose. But remember, to the extent that he does that, BC.
To the extreme, you rock a mic like a vandal, Luke, okay?
You're weird. All right, so let's go to the co-main event. Mario Barrios, by the way, 139.5, taking on Cowboy Ryan Carl at 140. Everyone made weight. Everyone looked pretty good. An all-Texas affair. What should the folks expect?
You should expect action. And Mario Barrios said it himself. He's going to get the hometown factor, the backdrop of San Antonio. We're expecting 10, 11,000 fans there, of course, under COVID protocol. He wants to steal the show. He wants to announce himself in this division as one of the next big things, unbeaten, a fun fighter. Also got Regis Prograis, like I mentioned, who could be a future opponent, could be somebody who's trying to take the attention away on this card. I think you see the very best of Mario Barrios, and I think the more that Ryan Cowboy Carl tries to step it up the pace and bring it to him, the more you're playing into what Barrios does well. And I love Cowboy's story. I love that he's injury-free. I love that he says, I'm listening in camp. I'm not just going out there trying to throw myself at my opponent. I'm trying to add some style and some craft. It may not be enough because Barrios looks like the real deal, Luke.
He certainly does. I'm going to go with Barrios as well. I think an open-ended striking affair is going to favor the heavier, slicker puncher of the two, and that's Barrios. Okay, Regis Prograis, 141.6. We don't have an updated assessment of his weight, but I'm fairly confident he has 2 extra hours to make the weight. He was about 0.6 over. That should be pretty doable, so let's assume that the fight is a go. Regis Prograis taking on Juan Herreras. You believe Herreras is pretty slick. I'm going to take slight issue with that. I do think he is certainly the more concerted, judicious puncher of the two. But hello, Prograis has a lot of skill himself. He's not just some kind of boxer. He has great angles, good combinations, good body work, stands in the southpaw position. A lot to like with that guy.
Yeah, certainly. And as you see in the highlights there in picture form, he had a world title at 140 pounds. Regis Prograis got pushed to the absolute limit against one of the best in the division in the Tartan Tornado, Josh Taylor. You could have flipped a coin on who won that fight. It ended up being Taylor by close decision, one of the best fights of the year in 2019. But Luke, all that has done is fuel Prograis to realize I got to do even a little bit more than I've done. He knows he's of that ilk, of the elite at 140. He's been talking for years about eventually going up to welterweight. He's going to have no shortage of opponents. But he's got to look good here. He's got to announce himself in a little bit of pressure in his PBC debut, a potential featured player. Got to tough out Juan Herreras, a guy who's never lost, coming off a tough draw, though, against Argenis Mendes, the former champion. But a guy who can box. And they did ask this week, Herreras, do you have the punching power to gain the respect of Rugru? And he simply said, why don't you ask Regis after the fight? He believes in himself. He trains out of the Mayweather gym. Herreras, a former Floyd sparring partner for the Maidana, the Birdo pay-per-views. Here's a guy who's come a long way. He knows he's best suited to play the Matador against the Bull. But if this weight situation has any effect on Regis, again, Herreras has the style to stretch a man. So it's going to be an interesting test in a lot of ways. Look, when a guy doesn't know how to lose, Luke, you're playing with house money in terms of confidence. You're riding high. Yeah, but then when someone teaches you, it can be a bit of a bitter pill to swallow. We'll see what happens. I like Prograis to win, for the record. All right, so Isaac Cruz taking on Diego Magdaleno. This is the closest fight in terms of the odds on the entire card. Cruz coming in at 132. You look at this guy. He's short in stature, doesn't have the longest reach, but his style is gloves up, in your face, march you down.
And they have him as a slight favorite over the much more experienced Magdaleno.
Yeah,
Agree
you're
or
going to
disagree?
have to figure out at 34, what do you think Diego Magdaleno has left? Luke, when he lost the third big step-up fight of his career, going up there against Teofimo Lopez on Lopez's initial rise, Magdaleno got stopped. His trainer then, Ismail Salah, said, I think you should finish. I think it should be the end. Even Magdaleno's family was against him. He knows and believes he's got more left in the tank. He's got a new team. He says they believe in him. He believes in himself at a level maybe he's never done before. Skill for skill. I kind of like Magdaleno in this. It's going to all come down to me on how much he wants to bite down and how much he has left in there to see. At 34, he's right in that turning point. It's going to be.
All right, well, that is the four-fight main card for you. You can get that. For more information, go to SHOWTIME.com. You can obviously order the pay-per-view through your local provider, but SHOWTIME.com should have all the information that you need. Remember, starts 9 p.m. in the East with I believe the Cruz and then the Magdaleno fight, and then we'll go from there. San Antonio, Texas, Alamo Dome, a COVID protocol audience, but an audience just the same. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. I think it's going to sway heavily in favor of Santa Cruz. Brian and I, we are the hosts of Morning Combat. You can check us out 3 times a week, 11 a.m. East Coast time, on YouTube. We appreciate you guys watching. For more information on us, youtube.com/Morning Combat. We're done here. That's it. Enjoy the fights tomorrow. For Brian and I and everyone else at Showtime, may all of your gains be loyal.
15 years ago, you made your pay-per-view debut as a headliner against Arturo Gatti. Are there any similarities in your eyes to where Tank's brand is now to where you were entering the Gatti fight?
I believe in Tank. When Tank was very, very young, I told him someday he will be fighting on pay-per-view. And now we're here.
I've been doing it for so long. I started fighting when I was 8. I'm made for this. I'm here for a reason.
I'm not in the best shape of my life. As we know, we have a hard fight. I think the hardest fight in my career. There's a big opportunity for me to become a pay-per-view superstar, and that's what I want.
A couple of years ago when I was saying I was going to be the next pay-per-view star, people were thinking that I was just talking. Now that it's really here, I'm on the road to be a superstar.
TV taught me how to dream. It was a life jacket. I don't think you can be an artist and not touch people.